Okay. Hi, SickMouth. Let me explain to you about Abba. And I'm never sure why we ever called him Abba, except everything in his name had something to do with Abba, for the most part. There was Fat Abba, Abba Fails, Abba 149, just a whole bunch of Abbas for some reason. And we never quite understood that. Well, when I came onto the scene in 2008, it was an ongoing war with the theist and the atheist. And of course, this was spurred on by partisan politics. You know, it was the last run of the Bush era, and everything was in full swing, and anything anybody could throw at the establishment was being thrown at it. So, all volunteers were welcome. Plus, the various communities on YouTube were more insulated back then. And things also weren't as evolved, I should say, because the technology, the HD technology wasn't there, and that plays an important part in who can make videos and how they're presented, and who can't get the privilege of putting out the latest and best video. I'm right now using 240 by 480 or 360, and I've just really tweaked the camera so it's sharp, so I can have a low rate of upload. But for most people, they use HD, and you have to have a computer to have that. So that kind of excludes a lot of people. Because, like I was saying, that there was different industries. There's also, different industries, sorry. Different spheres of people running in different circles. There was the atheist, there was the feminist, there was a whole bunch of different ones, but the ones that related were the atheist, the feminist, and another one was the people who were involved with intellectual things, and then there was actual artistic crowd. And some of the artistic crowd was just people with mental health issues. So you would have these various groups, and some of them would overlap into the atheist community. Like the gay lobby, the artistic ones. You know, there was a very small cross audience. Not like there is now. And not to the standard it is now. So mostly, there was a lot of webcam mayhem going on. And small pocket HD, standard edition, standard resolution viewing. And also, YouTube wasn't as broke then. You didn't have to bring your own audience or go outside of YouTube's search engines to actually social network to get an audience. So that made a difference also. If you could do something that could attract attention, especially in the atheist community in the volatile times, that basically made the statement of being shocking and anti-theist, or at least anti-Christian, because that was anti-establishment, then that was your tactic, and a lot of it was tolerated. As long as you kept on message, anything else you brought to the front to throw at the home team, so to speak, was fair game. And if you never noticed, this shifts between who's in office at the time. Like right now, the Democrats are in, so all of a sudden everybody on their side is all respectable. And everyone in the atheist, secular community is all of a sudden the sane ones. And it's the Republicans and people on the conservative side, especially like Tea Partiers and Alex Jones crowd, who switches back and forth, to be honest, are the ones that are going batshit loony. You know, it's just back and forth. It's a political reality, I believe. So this is how I came across Abba in 2008. I was new to YouTube, and I really didn't have my groundings, except I basically knew that among everything else and anything else, I was an atheist. I didn't believe I had inherited the wind. I believed in science, and I believed in evolution, and I jumped in the rabbit hole, you know, and my politics was not to the progressive side of things. Yes, I was a conservative atheist, and that was just really bizarre for me. But also very eye-opening and learning. But then again, I was never conservative in a lot of other ways, because before I was conservative, I was very street kid and liberal and the whole thing during the Cold War. You know, it was only after Desert Storm that I got star-spangled eyes, so to speak. You know, and now I'm kind of veered back to the middle, I guess you could say. My politics is distinct, but that's beside the point. The point is I'm trying to explain why people associated with Abba, who is JefroFATSO now. Because the point is that we all got involved with the heady aspects of actually gaining viewers, but there was a lot of pitfalls because people were pwning each other too. Really heavy. It was a savage garden and a dangerous game. And in a way, it kind of made it fun, but that was kind of a guilty thing too, because, you know, there was big spills, or big thrills and big spills. It was kind of like HBO on a webcam, so to speak. So, we didn't really notice how bad Abba was, because everybody was being about that bad. And he hit it. See, the key point about Abba is that he's an attention seeker. He wants to be not just attention seeking, but he wants status. He's a climber. He thinks, his desire is to get up into YouTube and have people important pay attention to him, because he wants to be one of the important people. But he never really got the fact that you have to care about people and be responsible for your fame if you want to have it. You have to work for it. You have to put forth the effort. And he could do that both in his bad ways and sometimes in his good ways when he had very rare, insightful um, monologues about various conditions, and it was shocking. If we weren't talking about him, about 20 people of us, which was a small in group of YouTubers that just chatted with each other, that are mostly gone now. But at the time, we were our own little clique that just basically talked about Abba. Because if he wasn't doing... What's Abba going to do now? What's Abba being crazy about? Oh, Abba's doing something bad, We better go freaking yell at Abba. And it went from freaking the hijinks at the height of the atheist community when everything was crazy. But the more sane it became, the more crazy he was. See, everything petered down, but he was just going down. And he would occasionally flare up, and then people would start realizing, oh, well, this isn't just a YouTube thing, this guy's, And then it got to the point where it got into a self-destructive circle because the less attention he got, the more desperate he got for it, and then therefore, the more he acted out in various ways. To give you an example of what I'm talking about, one day, I saw a video of his where he had the video camera in his window, and he was outside looking in a car window in the parking in his driveway. And believe me, there was somebody off camera in front of his, if you knew the setup of the house, because, you could see the outside of the house and the inside. His bedroom window faced the front window, and someone was frigging handling him. Someone was telling him to get back in. And this wasn't some crazy hostile stalker guy. This was someone, like a retard. Someone going, yeah, look, I mean, the act he puts on camera is basically, was an act. But in real life, he just falls apart. And then apparently they got him on some kind of medication now where the trade-off for being non-psychotic, because he used to take buzz cut scissors and he would take buzz cut scissors and just shave his head, and run around with knives and, yeah, and at this time everybody's just realizing that, oh, okay, this guy's, But we had grown so involved with him that we went from being sentimental and communicative to him and watching him as a spectacle to actually kind of frigging, babysitting him, basically. Heralding it. You couldn't control what he couldn't do, what we couldn't see. But, anytime any one of us seen something that was shocking, we'd be like, no, Abba, we tried. You know what I mean? And, since then he's had me blocked, and I had battles with him, and now it's like I grew past him. So now it's like I'm at the point where I'm not going to make the effort anymore because it's just not worth it. And this is really a shame because when you're like someone like me who believes in various advocacy of certain issues like mental health and universal health care, you see the neglect that is happening. It's no excuse, but this is a legitimate mental health issue and an issue with society in general. This is not just a feminist issue. This is an issue of pharmaceuticals, lack of proper mental health care in this country, and how law and the internet really don't mesh anymore. He should probably be institutionalized, you see, to be honest. But because he blanks out channels and puts up new channels and moves all around, and then friggin' recontacts his group or other people that, find him interesting, which are less and less anymore. The simple truth is that he can keep this basic cycle going for a little bit. But then he runs into people like you now, who are newer to YouTube, who have only known the new YouTube, unless you had former channels, and I don't know you before. And, people like Jack Luck, and it's just, it's completely inappropriate and scary to them. And it's also frigging inappropriate and scary to a lot of other people. And rightly so. And we all understand this, and we're not trying to enable him in any way, shape, or form. But it's like that old Pink Floyd song, Wish You Were Here. Some of us wish he was here. That means there is a pity there, because the man who is disintegrating from the inside from a disease of the mind would have enjoyed the basic pleasures and simple, I don't even know how to say it, the simple, not just joys, but the validation of returns of basic human communication that's denied to so many people. I mean, it's a crying shame. It's like it's like Alzheimer's. He's basically, mental illness is just horrible. If he was physically disabled, you would see somebody who was at least paralyzed from the waist down, or someone who had a stroke. That would be That would be a better way to put it. Somebody who had a stroke and was clear on the inside. Well, he had a stroke, but he's clear on the outside, but on the inside, it's gone. And as the years went by, you could see the degradation of the mental capabilities. Obviously, you could also tell that due to my speech and abilities, well, who's to say? Maybe I'm not all there either. There's a few other people on YouTube who struggle with issues in here and there. And because, believe me, all this is off the top of my head. Just like I was sitting there talking to you. Oh, and believe me, if I was sitting there talking to you, you would see somebody who was polite, who tried to talk about subjects, who didn't try to take any inappropriate actions, and who was interested in you as a person, and considerate and even concerned about your feelings. Well, honestly, to be honest, depending on our interaction, if I'm someone who has some sympathy for people who hit sour chords with me, but not so much, we're all human. But generally, I think you're a nice young lady, and I understand a lot of the feminist issues. Now, to get into that subject is a little bit protracted, and in this topic. But I wanted you to really understand and know the experience, at least I had, with this individual. Because at times I felt almost guilty because of it. But then I had to think, well, wait a minute. Should I really be guilty of this? Or should I be a little bit more assertive in why I had this experience with this individual? Because if we all talk about caring and being open to other people, why aren't we open to other people in other ways? I mean, obviously, you can't be all the way open to everyone all the time. You have to draw a line. But the point is, where do you draw the lines at? Now, for you, I can understand. But I think, just think for a second, if you could just reflect upon what I'm saying and know, well, think I know, that this guy is probably not going to be any danger to you or anyone, then you could reflect on what I'm trying to get at. That this guy is a health concern, not a danger. He's like a infantile, in a way. Although I did hear one thing that kind of really upset me was that I guess he had gotten out and goofing around some old guy on a ladder, and I guess the man fell off the ladder, and I found that highly suspicious. But him doing anything but being on webcam or going friggin' 50 feet from his house, I doubt it, to be honest. Now, if he ends up on the 6 o'clock news and friggin', we all were laughing and joking about the friggin' dead hookers in his friggin' basement, the egg on my face is on me. You know what I mean? You never know. I mean, gee, he was such a nice guy. I don't know why we didn't see it. True. You know what I mean? Because we've all talked about it. But on the internet, what can you do about it? I don't know. Ignore him? Watch him go off somewhere else? Because you know how it is on the internet. You friggin' blow someone off, they just find 8 to 10 other people. It just goes on and on and on. People just change channels. Do it. I see people friggin' go on and say, oh, I'm leaving YouTube forever. And then friggin' I'll run across them 6 months later. Under another title. Or channel name. Sometimes they leave. Sometimes people lose interest. But, mostly the people that do this as a hobby are back. And I invite your answer on what we can do on this internet condition. Because some of us have tried to be a guiding hand, but that just doesn't seem to work either without being enabling. And we know that he was out there, and we would try to friggin', steer him away from that, but it's like it can't be done. So, what's your solution? I don't know. And that's the history and story of Abba, of everything we've seen. So, I really hope it puts your mind to rest, because he doesn't go friggin' 50 feet from his house. So, he'll never get on a bus and go somewhere and do something or prowl around his neighborhood. I really doubt it. I do. And I could be completely wrong, to be honest. So, that's the story.